We are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Blake Ruffino. This is Are You Serious Sports. We hope that you guys are making it a good one. We know that we are as well. Massive show in store for you tonight. We will break down Ole Miss versus LSU, the preview of the Tigers versus the Rebels. Boo! LSU goes up to Oxford, Mississippi this weekend to take on the national defending and I guess still technically reigning national champions, Ole Miss Rebels. We'll talk about them here tonight as the series is only a couple days away. I'm putting past last night's loss to the University of South Louisiana. I think you should as well. I think multiple players today said a lot of the right things, Kay Beloso being one of them. We'll touch on that as well as we break down this series. Ole Miss is having a really tough year to start out, and it's to be expected. It is to be expected that they are off to a tough start, man, but we'll break it all down. QB and spring football update. Blake, do we have a quarterback battle? No, we do not. But I always think it's a good update because we have not talked a lot about spring football over the last couple of days. We mentioned it a little bit last night. We'll talk about that here tonight as well. We'll go around your SEC as well as a Ruffino's Rants. Did y'all see that Arkansas legitimately is flaunting rings, championship rings, for winning the Liberty Bowl? Is it just me? Or is flexing a Liberty Bowl championship ring a little disappointing? Something's a brewing over there in Arkansas, man. We'll talk about that in the Ruffino's Rants, and then we'll give a recruiting update. Haley Van Lith, come on down. We'll talk about it as well. All right. Let's get to a couple comments, though, before we get rolling. Delton says, smash that like button. Yes, smash the like button. Smash the like button. Smash the like button. It does help us with that algorithm. It helps us a lot when it comes to everything that we do here at LSU. Also, Aaron Judge, if you're just, I got to talk about the Yankees, man. Just robbed Shohei Ohtani of a home run. The GOAT, known as Aaron Judge. Yeah, I'm going to be watching them Yanks, baby. Ryan C. on YouTube says, considered it smashed. Okay. Could be intended for a lot of different things, but thank you for hitting that like button. Don't forget to share to Facebook, YouTube, share to Facebook, Twitter, and all of your social media pages. We greatly appreciate you doing that. Kenny Futch says, go to hell, Ole Miss, go to hell. I agree with you there. And he also says that Arkansas fans are goofy. That they are. Jacob Wiggins is live in the chat, and he says, let's go. I agree. Andrew Paulza Martin says, Van Lith plus Angel equals Triple H and Shawn Michaels of women's basketball. You think I'm cute. You know I'm sexy. The ideal heels. I like that. Paul's Hub, I do like that a lot. It's a pretty good comparison. Yeah, I miss 90s wrestling, man. Early 2000s with The Rock. If you smell to Stone Cold. What? Goldberg, Triple H. You're in the game. Nothing better than 90s wrestling. Nothing better. Got to admit. Timothy Myers says, I am ready to hear what Coach BK had to say. Okay, we'll talk about that. I promise you we'll talk about that as soon as we talk about this Ole Miss series as well. So we do have a lot to get into. Jason on Facebook says, ask Blake, what's wrong with Thatcher Hurd? Look, I will openly admit I do feel bad for Thatcher Hurd. I talked to somebody last night that's been in Major League Baseball for a long time, and he said that even with the struggles that Thatcher Hurd has had, and they have been many, that he still would get drafted today based off of the stuff that he has. He just doesn't. His confidence just isn't on par right now. We still have a long season to go, and you're going, guys. I hate to tell you this. To win a national title, you're going to need Thatcher Hurd. At some point throughout the season, something's going to happen. You're going to look back and say, you know what? Thatcher Hurd had a really tough season, but he came through in this game that led us to ultimately winning a natty. So we'll see. We'll see. Tyler Townsend with his Power Hour LSU shirt on says, let's go. I love it. Kenny Futch says, D-Generation X. It's true. Delton says, the 80s old Mid-South wrestling. Tyler Townsend says, it has to be mentally. Talking about Thatcher Hurd, I'm assuming. Yeah, I mean, look, man. I mean, the kid came in here. He had NIL deals. He gave it to the Greater Food Bank of Baton Rouge. It's a good kid, man. I'm really pulling for him, and I think you should too. But I don't think as a person that Thatcher Hurd deserves some of the criticism. Guys, he's coming off a very significant injury. I mean, very significant. He has another year. And I just hope for him that he gets better. Brandon Reese says, hashtag ask Blake if Kim Mulkey gets Haley Van Lith. I wonder what the starting five would be next season. Flau'jae Williams. Let's see. Flau'jae Williams, Van Lith, Angel. And I'm assuming here, based off of what Kim has done in the past, the Del Rosario young lady. I'm assuming I'm saying that name right. I always get her mixed up. That would be what I would assume to be the starting five. How glorious would that be? Jamie Brady says, as season goes on, the team should be getting better, but they are not. Yeah, I mean, but look, Jamie, and we'll talk about this. I mean, a lot of teams have hit some struggles. I mean, look, who I believe is a top 3 team, Vandy lost to Indiana State last night. I get what you're saying. We'll talk about that as soon as we get out of the break. As soon as we're out of the break, I'm going to lead off with that. We're going to lead off with that. Rick on YouTube says, Hurd will get it together, just needs time to develop. All right, one more, and then we'll get rolling. Doug Nose says, Kelly did more than Wes last season, if we're being honest. In fairness, Wes has not had time to recruit. So these are not his dudes. In fairness, Wes Johnson has not had time to recruit the dudes that he wants. So these kids were already committed. When he came here, they were already signed, sealed, delivered. I'm with you. I'm with you on maybe attacking the portal, but that's not all on him. That also goes through Jay too. So I'm with you. Let's just see how it transpires. Let's see how it transpires. All right, let's get this thing rolling, though. Everybody do us a favor by hitting the like and share to all of those social media groups, share to all of your social media pages. If you're listening to us on Facebook, you guys are always killing it for us on Facebook. Hit the like button, hit the share to all of those social media pages, share to all of those LSU fan groups. We greatly appreciate you doing that. If you're listening to us on YouTube, getting so much closer to the 5,000 subscribers, like, comment, share, subscribe, all of it. Please help us do that because it helps us with that algorithm. If you're listening to us on XM Radio, the TuneIn app, or wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe. We greatly appreciate you doing that. All right, let's get rolling. Just want to mention, though, our good friends over at Fry Construction, site work and land development, oil and gas services, commercial construction, aggregate, and soil hauling, waste containers, demolition. They do it all. Let them know that Blake Ruffino sent you on by. All right, let's talk about our good friends over at betonline.ag. Our good friends over at GM Varno & Sons. We're back in 1 minute. Let's break down some LSU baseball. And what did Brian Kelly say today about his starting quarterback? Talk about it next. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag. With over 65 years of experience, nobody is better equipped to service in your vehicle than GM Varno & Sons. RV repair, big rig overhauls, motorhome chassis, routine maintenance, tire rotations, tire sales. No job is too big or too small over at GM. If you break down the side of the road in the greater Baton Rouge area, they will come and get you. And the best thing about that is that they can come and get you, and then they can bring your vehicle back to their shop and start the repairs right then. Again, GM Varno & Sons. Go see them over at 2500 Fuller Boulevard. Give them a call at 225-664-9992. 225-664-9992. Tell them your good friend Blake Ruffino sent you on by. That's my fault. So shout out to Fry Construction and all of our good friends over there. We just had their ads still up. All right, so let's get this thing rolling, y'all. Let's get this thing started, y'all. All right. Listen, I know that you're worried. I know that you're upset. I know that you're worried, and I know that you're upset. I'm right there with you. I know that of all midweek games, you don't want to lose to ULL. I get it. I'm right there with you. Guys, you got to move on from it. Let the little brother that is Raging Cajuns talk all the smack they want, because the likelihood of them being in your regional is somewhat highly likely, right? Maybe they go somewhere out to Texas. That's where they normally go. They normally send them out to the Rudy Poo West. They don't want to send them a little bit back east to Baton Rouge. Is what it is. You got to move on to Ole Miss. Now, I like what I heard today from some of the guys on this LSU baseball team. Kay Beloso came out today and talked pretty candidly, like, look, we know that we won the series against Kentucky. We didn't play our best baseball. I know that we won, but we got to get better. And he's not wrong. That specifically comes, that exact comment that Kay Beloso made comes from up top from Jay. If you believe that Jay Johnson's not on their $$ in reference to how they're playing in the field, how the bullpen has been, you're crazy. You have a massive weekend. I know that the schedule that you have in the SEC gets a little bit lighter. I know that you're not facing top 25 teams. I know that Ole Miss has the worst SEC schedule. The worst SEC record. I get all that. You got to go and have a massive weekend in Oxford. If the misconception a lot of times too is that you look at a record. You see that Ole Miss is 21-16. You see that they're 3-12 inside the conference. I get that. They're not a bad team. You got to be locked in, ready, and focused when you go up I-55 and head to Oxford. You got to be locked in and ready to roll. Ole Miss can really hit the baseball. Their record not necessarily dictates how good or bad they've been. Calvin Harris hitting .356 with 6 home runs. Kemp Alderman is hitting .356 with 15 long balls. Jacob Gonzalez, who some believe is going to be a top 5 overall pick, is hitting .338, 7 home runs, 37 RBIs, 15 doubles this season for Jacob Gonzalez. Ethan Groff hitting .329, 5 home runs, 38 RBIs. Tony Calarco, .307, 5 home runs, 38 RBIs. And this name is a name from a blast in the past, Will Furness, hitting .265 with 2 long balls. Oh, and TJ McCants, their right fielder, is not that shabby himself. Is he having a great season? Not necessarily at the plate. He's hitting around .250 with 7 long balls. You have a decent team that you're playing in the SEC this weekend. If you think that Ole Miss cannot rake at times, you're kidding yourselves. Kemp Alderman, as an example, can flat out hit a baseball. Christian Gonzalez can flat out hit a baseball. Calvin Harris is not a scrub. Not even remotely close. But this weekend, in my opinion, just based off of everything that's been going on at LSU, may show you and may be a determining factor of how good this team really can be. You're coming off a bad midweek loss. You lose to a rival. You lose to a school you have no business losing to. Yada, 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 yada. You face a team that's got legitimate Major League Baseball dudes in Kemp Alderman and Christian Gonzalez, or Jacob Gonzalez, excuse me. They have dudes. What are you made of? Because what you're made of, the DNA of this program, is going to be shown this weekend in Oxford. Swayze, I'm assuming, will be packed. The student section in right field's looking to throw beer in the air. Don't give them a reason to. Don't give them a reason to. You know, I remember last season in Jay's first year, when you lose, if I'm not mistaken, you lost the first game to Florida, you responded by beating them in the next 2 games. It got chirpy. It got loud. You got the job done. That same focus and intensity and attention to detail has got to happen this weekend. Is Ole Miss 3-12 in the conference? Yeah. Are they likely to make the postseason? No. But your DNA as a team is going to have to show itself. You're going to have to be patient with some of it. They're a team that's growing. You have Tommy Tanks. You have new guys like Paul Skeens. Yeah, you've played over half a season. But what are you made of? You should have swept the number 1 team in the RPI in Kentucky. You didn't. Everything that you've done to this point on, flush it. Who cares that Dylan Cruz is hitting sub 500? Who cares that Tommy Tanks leads the country in RBIs? Who cares that Paul Skeens is climbing up draft boards like Spider-Man of all people? Go out there and be focused, locked in, and determined on what it is that you need to do. And you'll be fine. You'll be 1,000% fine. You know, I watch look, my first ever love was baseball. I told you last week, my uncle, who's coach and been a head coach for 35 years, used to bring me up to the Diamond and to Doc's Diamond in Franklinton every day. Went to every Franklinton baseball game. Every one of them. Grandfather won multiple state championships. My first love was baseball. And I've watched a lot of Ole Miss baseball this season. A lot of Ole Miss baseball this season. They went 1 of 2 against Mississippi State. They lost some tough ones. They lost 2 games by a combined runs of 3. They split a doubleheader in Arkansas a couple of weeks ago. They lost 6-4 in game 3. They played A&M. They would win 14-7. 14-7 against Texas A&M in game 2. They would lose 2 of those 3 games by a combined runs of 3. All I'm here to tell you is that don't overlook them because they do have dudes. But this weekend has nothing to do with what Ole Miss possesses. If you legitimately are, if you're the best team in the country, you need to go out there and show it this weekend. I'm not calling you to take a clean sweep. What I'm calling for you to do is don't make the boneheaded errors. Be locked in and focused because you need to go out there and show who you are and impose that will. What? You got to go out there and impose that will. Oh, my God. You got to stop banging on the door. I know. Well, stop because Daddy. Oh, what you got? Are you bringing me money?
No, me.
Give me that money.
No.
Give me that money. All right, go. Love you. Tell Pooh hey. Go. Close the door. Close the door. Don't come back in here now. That boy. Either way. Yeah, he is paying for his airtime. Trying to get better on him not coming in here. Especially, anyway. The problem with Ole Miss has been they have 2 of their starters have sub ERAs of 5. LSU can hit off of them. They can rake. They can legitimately do some good things. We'll see. Couple of comments. Rob on YouTube with a $20 super chat. Thank you so much, Rob, for sending us that $20 super chat. Says, hey, Blake, keep up the good work. Do not back down to all those Kool-Aid drinkers who dog us. You damn right, Rob. And I don't even drink Kool-Aid. Holden Lee said, I'm going to be quiet. I can get too much in trouble. All right, hold on really quickly. I need all of you at the end of the show to Google a town called Roseland. Google a town called Roseland. It's where I grew up. Maybe if they still have an article about a little fat Italian kid selling Kool-Aid at the corner for $12 a cup. Anyway, Holden Lee says Ole Miss pitching staff is similar to ours. Definitely not one of the better pitching staffs we've seen. Not even remotely close. Man, to Holden's point here, Ole Miss, and I'm going to disagree with him a little bit. Overall, you are a better team than Ole Miss. Pitching staff, at the plate, you are overall a better team. You're an overall better staff. And that's saying something. They don't have a Paul Skeens. Guys, quite honestly, and the numbers back this up, the best guy that you will see so far that we've seen this season from Ole Miss is Ty Floyd. Now, Ty's had some stretches where he's done good, and so has Ole Miss. They've caught some bad breaks in all of this now. I mean, when you're losing a series by a combined 3 runs, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 SEC games where they lost by a run. 5. Okay? They have been in these games. They've had some bad luck that they couldn't overcome. But this weekend, like I've mentioned, has nothing to do with Ole Miss. Make it about you. Locked in on every pitch. Locked in on every throw. Locked in on every catch. You cannot have the defensive errors that you've been having. You just remotely can't, because if you continue down the path of the defense that you've been playing, you're going to wind up finding yourself in a precarious situation where you're battling with Ole Miss, which you're going to be doing anyway, I might add. Okay? You get into a situation where maybe you lose a game in this series that you just don't have any business losing to. Ole Miss is not better than Kentucky. We know that they're not better than Texas A&M. We've already seen that. They're not better than Arkansas. We've seen that. You beat Arkansas 2 of 3. You got to have that dog mentality. You know the meme. That dude got that dog in him. Well, go out there and show you got the eye of the tiger. Show out there that you're ticked off. I want to see some outright fight. Like, I loved, like, so for example, and I did not mention this last night, okay? But as an example, everybody is mad and pissed, or not everybody, but some people are mad and upset about the Jared Jones, him saying, and all of that. People are mad behind all of that. Sometimes when you're struggling, I'm glad to see somebody's got the dog in them. Get locked in and get focused. Because what you're doing out in the field at times is not locked in and focused. You cannot have back-to-back games where you have a scenario where an outfielder can't either see the ball, field the ball, or blatantly overrun something where runs are scored and you lose. Should LSU be in that situation either way? No. But Kentucky's not a bad team, man. Kentucky's not a bad team. And let me add to this. Let me add to this. Last weekend in college baseball showed why the FPI is completely and utter horse manure. Say that again. College baseball's FPI is complete and utter horse manure. Guys, last week, Kentucky was the number 1 team in the country in the FPI. Number 1. LSU just beat them. There's no power rankings better than head-to-head matchups. Get rid of the FPI. Come up with another formula. Same with ESPN's FPI when it comes to college football. Makes no sense. No sense. All right, a couple comments rolling in here. Let's get to a couple of them before we transition over to some football. Elwin on Facebook says, watching LSU's offense is like watching Groundhog Day with an occasional surprise throw. I don't know about that. That's pretty bad. That's a pretty bad take. I mean, come on. Short draw white-tailed on YouTube. That makes the show better. Oh, you talking about Ben? Paul Martin says, you're taxing him for disturbing the show. Yeah, I am. Rob, it's not us, buddy. It's you. Brandon Graziano says, yeah, where car always getting smashed by train. Cars are always getting smashed by trains, Roseland. That's actually not Roseland anymore. It's Independence. We had a year in Independence where like 17 cars got hit by trains. And because people were doing stupid stuff. What are we doing? What are we doing? Tyler Townsend says you got to have the marbles. You do. You have no marbles. You have no marbles. Andrew Paul's Martin again says we jump-started their run last year. Time to return the favor and kill them in April. That's true. Guys, a year ago tomorrow, I went and looked up the dates. Is when they found their ace and started making their run. Can you do it too? Can you do it too? That's what I need to see. All right. Let's do this. We need to transition to some football stuff. We hadn't been talking enough about football. Been quiet, man. It's actually what we're going to talk about. So my good friend Carol Foss over at State Farm. That's Carol Foss over at State Farm. Save you some money today. Switch over to State Farm. Guys, what's the worst that can happen? Literally, what's the worst that can happen? Oh, Carol Foss saves you money? Oh, he tells you that he can't get you a better insurance premiums? Call my good buddy Carol Foss today at State Farm. We're back in 45 seconds. Brian Kelly. Shane Daniels making waves? He said so. We talk about it next. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Foss and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with the great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Foss has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements. Something that Kayshon Boutte might have to wait a pretty good time to hear in a couple of weeks. Let me say this because I just want to go ahead and get it out of the way. Kayshon Boutte was expected to be a first-round pick. You knew it. I knew it. We talked about it. He's been one of the better receivers that we've seen at LSU. Pooh, did you see this today? You have multiple outlets and sources coming out and saying Kiper, McShay, et cetera, saying that they've done digging on Kayshon Boutte and they expect him to fall to the 4th or 5th round. Guys, if that's the case, be prepared for what some Rudy Poos will say. All I'm going to say is, and I think that this needs to be warranted, okay, and said, when somebody shows you who they truly are, and you have somebody that comes out and says multiple times that he entertained leaving LSU and going to Alabama, be careful, because sometimes karma comes out of the weeds and bites you straight in the ass. No pause. Be prepared for if you start hearing character issues for Kayshon. And you might need to look yourself in the mirror as an LSU fan and ask yourself the question, am I willing to fall on that sword? And for whom? Bro, you got multiple NFL insiders. Do you mean to tell me that you don't believe Mel? Like, what does Mel Kiper and Tom McShay have anything to do with saying that Kayshon, like as an example, we all ridiculed Todd McShay a while back for his thoughts and takes on Jalen Carter. Meanwhile, what he was really trying to say is, guys, I have sources that's talking about this vehicle situation, this leaving the scene of the car accident. Just be careful, man. When you tell somebody they're not doing their job and they're not hearing things, sometimes that also can come back and bite you in the arse too. All right. Brian Kelly made some comments today, and I want to run through them because what's interesting to me is, let me preface this by saying, I went on this show this morning. Every Wednesday, I go on with the Bill King, the GOAT, the man who's knows more about college football than maybe some will forget. The knowledge that Bill King has is ridiculous. I mean, that man knows more about college football than maybe anyone that hasn't coached. Went on there today. And you know what was relieving? Bill asked me the question to start off, what's the news? What's the stuff going on down there at LSU? Do you know how relieving it was to be able to go out there and just talk about football? A word that I do hate to say, but I think is okay to say, it has been remotely quiet around LSU football since spring. It's been remotely quiet since the last signing period. It's been quiet other than you getting in some transfers. You know about some injuries here and there, but you're not really worried about them. Why? Because you trust your head coach. You know what has been the biggest change for me is that when you go from a coach that everything that goes on in that building you know about, to guys, quite honestly, there's just not a lot going on of negativity that you hear. Even when you won a national title and COVID and everything, you heard about Ed and the divorce and all this and that and that. You heard it all. You knew what was going on. You even knew the candidates that Ed was always going after when it comes to a coordinator, position coach. It didn't matter. You knew who he was going after. So did the opponents. It's felt really good to be able to come out here and say to you and to say to everybody, there's not really anything bad to report on. Only thing that we have to talk about is football. That ultimately is what it looks like to have a culture change. Will you have some stuff that pops up here and there, Malik Neighbors, whatever? Yeah, okay. But if that's the worst we're going to have in a 2-month span, sign me up for it. Brian Kelly did make some interesting comments, though, as all of the coaches were at the state capitol today. Shout out to Kim Mulkey for ripping alive some people for saying that she needs a new PMAC. She's not wrong. It's interesting to me of a guy like Brian Kelly to come out and make glowing statements about Jaden Daniels. Look, you've seen him. You know what he looked like last season. Let's call it what it was. The kid was maybe a $185 at max. Looks like he's a legit 205. I think that Brian Kelly has seen enough and has said today that he has felt really good, quoting, really good about Jaden Daniels' progression and how he's looking this offseason. I think that we know now when a guy like Brian Kelly makes those kind of I'll even say just emphatic comments about how good he looks and how good both quarterbacks have looked, shows how much they've progressed. What I would say to everyone is don't sleep on your quarterback. Don't sleep on your quarterbacks in general. Because I said this last Friday. I did it with the charity stripe. I came out and said Florida State scares me. You know this. I know this. Florida State as a team scares me more than what Alabama does. This is game one. You lost to them last year. I have so much more faith in this team and confidence in this team because you're led by a head coach in year one who won the West. He brings back a crap load of talent. And even for in the future, you kind of have somewhat of an idea of who you have along this team. You know that you'll have Will Campbell and Emory Jones coming back. You know that you have a 5-star right or left tackle in Lance Hurd. You know that you have guys in the interior that are coming in. You're always going to be talented at the skill positions. But the question is just the stability that you've had at quarterback. Guys, Jane Daniels hopefully has a very good year. And then you've seen flashes from Garrett Nussmeier. I'm not coming out here and saying that Jane Daniels is winning a Heisman. Not going to do it. I'm not saying right now that LSU is going to win a national title. What I am saying is, in our limited time of seeing Jane Daniels this spring, because we have not seen much of him, what has been the transformation, not outside of how he looks physically, that Brian Kelly is so emphatic in going out there and making those statements? Guys, you return the most production offensively than anybody in the SEC. Anybody. You return great wide receivers. You return your O-line. You return all your running backs. You return your quarterback. And you mean to tell me that they're getting better? What's interesting to me, and we talked about this ESPN RPI, and it had LSU number 4. What's interesting is the last time that LSU was number 4 in an ESPN RPI rating was 2019. We're not talking enough about this football team. I know that we have the dog days of summer. We're going to be talking about this team at outright nauseum. In a couple of weeks, maybe about, what's today? The 19th. So we started on May the 1st. So in a couple of weeks, we start going around our SEC talking football. We're going to continue to talk baseball, obviously. You talk to many people. You listen to Brian Kelly. You listen to how he is really glad and looking forward to seeing Jane Daniels more this fall and even this upcoming Saturday. And look, we got a spring game that we're not even talking about. I don't think that you're going to see a lot in this spring game this upcoming Saturday. But your coach came out today, Brian Kelly came out today and said he's more than pleased at what he's seen out of his starting quarterback. So what is he really trying to say? That Jane Daniels has gotten better at getting the ball down the field. If that's the case, guys, then it's lit. Maybe this offense will just do simply that. Going to be interesting. You know what was also interesting before we get to a couple of these comments? Did y'all see that Arkansas literally has been promoting their championship rings for winning the Liberty Bowl? Now, I know what you're going to say. Blake, you doofus. People get rings for bowl wins. It's not wrong. But you don't see teams going out there promoting them. Right? Like, it's one thing if LSU got SEC West championship rings from this past year. They won the West. But they didn't go and get a Cheez-It Bowl ring because the standards are completely different. I can't believe that Arkansas is legitimately out there publicizing in front of God and everybody for the whole world to see. We won the Liberty Bowl last year, y'all. Good for you. Your secondary hasn't gotten better. You haven't gotten better as a team. Enjoy the Liberty Bowl, Arkansas, because you might just be back there next year. You know, I see people saying KJ Jefferson's the best quarterback in the SEC. Says whom? When are we going to get to a point where we say that every year and it never transpires to be true? I would take Jane Daniels over a lot of quarterbacks in the SEC. What's going on at Auburn? Did you see Florida this past weekend or past week? Have you seen what has been going on? Guys, there's a lot of unknowns in the SEC. What is not unknown right now are three simple things. You know Georgia's going to be really good. You know Alabama more than likely is going to win 11 games. And LSU has a chance to really shock some people. Because they're really the only team offensively that you know what you're more than likely going to get and what's going to be better than. Secondary, you have some questions. Last year, they ranked higher as a pass defense than what the D-line and that front seven ranked from a rushing defensive standpoint. I think defensively you're going to be fine. I trust Matt House. I think he's going to do some good things. I like John Jancic. I like it. But LSU ain't going to be out there flaunting championship rings from the Liberty Bowl. My God. My God. We'll see. Get to a couple comments. Doug No says that Sam Pittman is Ed Orgeron 2.0 without a natty. Coordinator dependent. Maybe. And I like Sam Pittman a lot. I do like Sam. But there comes a point where, man, you got to have some situational awareness. You got to know what's going to happen if you're Arkansas when you post, celebrating a championship ring for the Liberty Bowl. Like, who's running that social media account? Like, cool, you got the rings. I don't have a problem with you flaunting and going and doing that. I have no issues with you getting a ring for a bowl game. I don't care enough. I lose breath talking about it. But have some situational awareness. Guys, Arkansas was legitimately the worst secondary in the country. I'm not talking about P5. I'm talking about they were the worst secondary in the country statistically a year ago. It just means more. Where? Like, a lot of people are praising KJ Jefferson. I get it. The dude's got more traits than an NBA 2K loyalty pack. I get all that. But you got to have some situational awareness if you're Arkansas. And look, I don't have a problem with Arkansas. I like the guys that cover that program. But in no way in hell what LSU do, or LSU, Florida, Georgia, Bama, they never do that. Timothy Meyer says, we are solid up front in the trenches. I know that. Yeah. Tom in Myrtle Beach says, what's up, Blake? # don't sleep on freeze. Yeah, I let the water run when it freezes. I'll let that one try to sink into some people. KJ on YouTube says, I trust in BK to make correct decisions. If it was Les Miles or Ed Orgeron, I'd question their decisions. Yeah, I at this point, man, like Brian Kelly knows what he's doing. Like if BK is going to go out there and make those statements on Jane Daniels, who am I to say any different? Nobody has seen enough this spring from a media perspective. And even when you talk to coaches on that staff, they will tell you just how much he's progressed. Throwing the ball down the field. Mike Denbrock talked about that, like saying, hey, listen, that's something that we've worked massively with Jaden Daniels on. Because if he can continue to get better, which I think that he is going to be better, man, and your offense is better, that's a dangerous combination of a team. You lost to Tennessee. You lost to Florida State. You lost to Texas A&M. A lot of those games did not hinder on, or you did not lose them because of Jaden Daniels. Let me repeat that. You did not lose to Tennessee. You did not lose to Florida State. Maybe I'll give you the Texas A&M. But Texas A&M ran for 250 yards plus on our butts. That didn't have anything to do with Jaden. He's got to complete the season going down the stretch. That's all I know. Tyler Townsend says, I knew that you would get that Major League Baseball reference. Yeah, you know I did, dog. Come on. What do I look like? Chopped liver? Ryan on YouTube says, hashtag ask like any transfer portal news worthy of talking about on the AYS forum. Yeah, I mean, look, Deshaun Womack is a safety out of Denham Springs who will be committing this Saturday. I feel great in LSU's chances there, but that's already on the forum. Go read it, ayssnetwork.com. Like I've told you, things will be picking up soon. Don't sleep on them. Do not sleep on them. Darren on Facebook says JD will have the same OC for 2 seasons in a row for the first time in his collegiate career. It's huge in my opinion. Absolutely, it's huge. Absolutely, it's huge. Like, listen to any player or coordinator that's been worth a damn. Any one of them that's been worth a damn will tell you that there are times that I just know what Mike Denbrock or my OC is going to call. It's what made Peyton and Cutcliffe so dangerous. It's what made Tebow and Meyer so dangerous. It's what made Bryce Young at times dangerous. Like he talked about that today. I forget the podcast that he went on. Like sometimes when you have that kind of rapport with an OC, you just know what they're going to call. You know what they're trying to accomplish. And Jaden has that for the first time. I think that that's massive. I think that we don't talk about it enough because everything's been so quiet. And again, we have the dog days of summer. We have a lot of time to discuss all this. But just look, we have a spring game Saturday that we're not even remotely talking about at all, because the truth is you're not going to see anything that's worth a damn. Last year, what was the conversations? Again, I said this last night. It bears repeating. Is Garrett Nussmeier completely different and gotten better since his first stint with Brian Kelly last year in the first spring game, to throwing the picks against Southern, to doing what he did against Georgia? Yes, yes, and yes. But we were all having the discussion, is Jaden really going to start over Garrett Nussmeier? And all he did was win the West. You know what you also didn't know this time last year? Just how good Harold Perkins would be. So when you have talented freshmen coming in, you don't know what it's going to look like, man. Deshaun Womack is not going to play Saturday. The 5-star defensive end, jack linebacker, whatever you want to label him as. That kid has the talent to be I don't want to put the label of Harold Perkins on him. He has that type of ability, though. Him rushing the passer is something serious. Jackson Howard looks like he's a part. Like he plays that role. And pretty good high level. Brandon Reese says, can't wait to see Mason Smith back Perkins and Omar Spates this upcoming season. Yeah, that's another guy that Brian Kelly talked about today. You know, he talked about that, and he said this, that he's cautious. He wants to know if these quarterbacks fit or these transfers rather fit their program and culture. And Omar Spates is one of them, that he wanted to play on Broadway. And I just think you're just overall, what is scary to me, and I think that should be scary for everybody across the country from an LSU perspective, is I think that they're going to be not 10 times better, but they're going to be so much better than they were a year ago. And if this upcoming team is better than what you had a year ago, that team won the West. What can we realistically expect? Now, could LSU have a situation where they have some injuries, they have some bad luck, season doesn't go the way that they want to? Yes. But as it looks like in the lenses of what I see, and you can say that I have purple and gold glasses on, it is what it is. But what I'm going to need you to do for me is tell me where every other team that they're facing has gotten better than what you have. Because right now, I would trust Omar Speights, who we've seen play in the pack. I get it. But we've seen these dudes play. Denver Harris is a good corner. Deuce Chestnut, Zy Alexander, J.K. Johnson. Those dudes can play. You saw what Greg Brooks can give you. Just think you're going to be remotely better, man. Brandon Graziano says, what's the word on Bear Alexander out of Georgia? It would appear that he's going to USC for a visit. Ryan says, yeah, JD5 going to Sean and move up draft boards. I agree. H-Town Creole says, Brandon Reese, I think the defense will be the strength of the team. Well, they're got to get better. We've talked about that too. The defense has to be better. You cannot be that bad on third down. There are just simple things that you got to be better in. Third down efficiency is one of them. All right. Get a couple more, then we'll get on out of here. Josh Johnson says, heard anything about the defensive end from Acadiana? McKinley. Could be wrapping up somewhat soon. Maybe. Brandon Reese says, can't wait to see Mason Smith, Harold Perkins, Omar Speights this upcoming season. I think we read that. H-Town Creole says, this season is a make-or-break year for Jayden Daniels. He will be in back of a talented young line in the second year of the offense. I predicted a come-out season for JD5. Yeah, and you don't know, like, guys, like one thing, like we talked about Harold Perkins. You didn't see Harold Perkins in the spring game last year. You're not going to see Lance Hurd. And I really do think Lance Hurd has the potential to come in here and start at right tackle, and you possibly move Emory Jones over to right guard. Now, does Lance Hurd start at right tackle game one against Florida State when you got Jared Verse out there? Is it going to be too much for him? We'll see. We will see. You got Mason Lunsford coming in. You got Charles Turner. You got Marlon Martinez, who a lot of people are talking good, glowing things about. Marlon Martinez is in there battling. He's in there battling. I'm ready for Saturday. I'm ready to see what this team, some of the newer guys that you have. I know that you are. I am too, man. Look, I don't think I don't overreact to spring games, but it'll be fun to see them. You got a football game going on. You get an idea of who you got, but you're not going to get anything from that game. No, all that it ain't you, buddy. It ain't you. All right. We will see y'all tomorrow. We will be guessing up. We'll find somebody. At a cancellation today. But we'll get somebody. All right. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.